like and subscribe, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week. Diving into the ocean can be adventurous and enlightening until you find things you weren't supposed to find, or things that were thought to have been lost to history. Stay with us as we dive into mysterious things recently found underwater. From shipwrecks lost in the sea to weird sea creatures, you won't believe what this Navy officer saw while diving in the Arctic. Number 13. The USS Johnston. Historians, pay attention. This'll blow your mind. This ship takes us back to October 23, 1944, during a gigantic naval battle that happened in Leyte Gulf, part of the Philippine Sea during World War II. The USS Johnston sank after a battle against the world's largest battleship, the Yamato. It was among the 5 U.S. ships that sank and had taken with it 186 of her 327 crew. It seems that wasn't the end of the Johnston story. Years later, it was discovered that Johnston was laid to rest in the deep waters of the ocean where no creature lives. The average depth of the ocean is 12,000 feet, yet the USS Johnston ship went deeper than that. This didn't stop Vescovo, a former U.S. Navy intelligence officer turned private equity manager, from finding the wreck. Having climbed Mount Everest and visited both the South and North Poles, finding the wreck was nothing to him. Together with his team, they became the first people to dive to the bottom of the Philippine Trench. Cool, right? Number 12. Tales of Terror and Erebus. Sounds like a story right out of a children's mystery novel, right? Well, don't get your hopes up. It's just another shipwreck found nearly 170 years later. The ships Terror and Erebus served in the British War of 1812 against the United States, but got lost under the sea. The Royal British Navy kept looking for the ships for decades to no avail. It became a mystery and even posed for novels such as Finding Franklin, The Untold Story of a 165-year-old Search, a novel by Russell A. Potter. The story doesn't end there. In 2014, the diminishing ice helped the efforts pay off as Erebus was found, and then Terror, 60 miles from where the ships should have been. Call it the rare upside of climate change. The ships were still intact despite them being underwater for nearly 2 centuries. After 2 years of research, it was believed that both crews abandoned their ships and set out to walk hundreds of miles across the Arctic to the Canadian mainland, but none arrived. Such a tragic story, don't you think? Number 11. Lost Whaler Ship. We can now conclude that people never forget about shipwrecks, and they're eventually found, even if it takes thousands of decades to do so. On May 26, 1836, industry got lost in a storm while hunting for sperm whales 70 miles off the mouth of the Mississippi River. The ship was used to hunt whales across the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean, and the Gulf of Mexico. 207 years later, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, found the wreck on the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico. Scientists have done extensive research and confirmed it to be industry. Long live industry! You serve the world well. Number 10. Purple Orb. Just like all sci-fi movies, it all started with curiosity. What is that? Marine scientists notice a purple orb hiding in the shadows and glowing under the submersible's light. Capture it and take it to the lab for testing. A nearby crab was about to grab it for lunch. They're still researching what it could be. While we await the naming of the orb, this clip serves as a reminder of how nature keeps proving that the ocean is a mysterious place and that we don't know as much as we thought we did. Number 9. Bodies chained together. Imagine having an amazing dive into the sea, then you bump into these sculptures. Yeah, that expression tells me everything. These divers probably had that face too. At first, they thought they were humans who got lost in the sea, since divers were known to get lost. But luckily for them, these weren't humans. They were sculptures of the Molinari Underwater Sculpture Park. This is a collection of underwater art collected in the Caribbean Sea off the west coast of Grenada. The sculptures evoke the idea of unity. Whatever the intention of the artist was, this is a true masterpiece that has captured the hearts of many. Number 8. The Titanic. If you don't know about the Titanic, then there's no difference between you and a child born today, like literally born right now. 73 years later, and yet no one has forgotten about the tragic event of the Titanic. and many of you know it was the largest ship of its time, but its life was very short, having lasted only 4 days after its first journey. Former Navy officer turned oceanographer Robert D. Ballard and his team located the wreck 13,000 feet below the surface in the North Atlantic. A lot of artifacts were recovered from the wreck. It was hard to believe that many of its features and interiors were still well preserved. The ship is still being explored up till now. You never know what they may find. Number 7. The city of Mahabalipuram. The city of Mahabalipuram is known for its beaches and historical sites. But what marveled the world was the emerging shoreline of part of Mahabalipuram. Just after the tsunami hit the area, the ruins were said to be a piece of the once sunken town. It was a long row of granite boulders. During their investigations, scientists, archaeologists, and geologists and divers found the remains of the 6 shore temple that were claimed to have gone underwater. Most of the structures were hard to identify as they were either covered with thick aquatic growth or damaged by strong underwater currents. If the tsunami hadn't interfered, it seems that this city was planning on staying lost forever. Number 6. Underwater Strip Club. Imagine partying with a fish. Well, it seems that there are people who took this vision to heart and blessed us with an underwater strip club. This club was captured by a photographer during his dive off the coast of Iliad, Israel. The strip club was formerly known as Nympha's Show Bar, and in case you were wondering, the entrance was above the water. Members had to cross a 230-foot bridge and go down a flight of stairs to get to the club. Was the venue just too off-putting? Whatever the case, the owners are lucky there won't be any dust on the tables and chairs when they return to business. Number 5. Terrifying sea spider that sucks on prey. This is one of those creatures you wouldn't want to find deep in the ocean. But guess what? They exist, and they're as frightening as they look. They have terrifying long legs connected to a tiny body with no teeth, not gaping jaws, but suck fluids out of its prey with its long tube called a proboscis. While spiders are quite small, this one beats the odds and grows to more than 30 inches in diameter. Yeah, you heard that right. Be sure you don't come across it while diving in sea. Number 4. Sprawling sponge gardens. Could you imagine that deep beneath the ice covering the Arctic Ocean, an unlikely community thrives off ancient relics? Well, if these aren't the wonders of the ocean, then I don't know what is. Underwater cameras revealed these expansive sponge gardens clustered over extinct underwater volcanoes along the ocean floor. The sponges date back 300 years old, or even more. They once relied on the heat and nutrients provided by the volcanic activity. Talk about being the architect of their own ecosystem. No one has ever seen anything like this before. Number 3. Marine flatworm. Imagine minding your own business in the ocean, then you come across this. And here we thought we'd figured out all the animals in the sea. Well, joke's on us. Scuba instructor Gregor Irvin didn't want this mesmerizing creature to pass him without taking a snap. Good thing he had a camera with him. It's a ribbon-like creature found in the clear waters around Indonesia's Lembeh Strait. Its wave-like motion tells us that it has a soft body. Their strange appearance doesn't end there. You'd be shocked to hear that these creatures compete to live the bachelor life for as long as possible. Quite interesting, don't you think? Number 2. Underwater river in the Black Sea. Did you know that underwater sea rivers exist? It's hard to believe, right? Scientists found a massive underwater river flowing along the bottom of the Black Sea while studying a deep channel found on the ocean seabed. This discovery has no doubt brought in many unanswered questions. The water has higher salinity and carries so much sediment that the surrounding seawater makes it denser. Amazingly, it flows down the sea shelf and out into the abysmal plain much like a river on land. This underwater river is the only active undersea river that has ever been found so far. The world doesn't cease to surprise. Number 1. The oldest shark. When you go diving in the cold, deep waters of the North Atlantic, you'll surely meet the Greenland shark. So what's so special about this shark? Well, they're the longest living vertebrate on Earth, that are about 400 years old. The shark was found recently when some researchers were diving in the deep waters doing what they do best, researching. They used radiocarbon dating to determine the age of the sharks. Research on it's being done to give us more information about these species. For now, we should be lucky that this creature loves to swim in the cold, deep water away from humans. Until next time, adios.